back, ladies and gentlemen, to our humble little secondary channel. Well guys, today I am back to provoke some thought. Now, the way that we have the agenda laid out for today is we will talk about non-animal Predacons, a custom Generation 2 selects, and animated Shockwave. But before we get on that, we have a little housekeeping to go ahead and go through, and that is, if you guys have not seen on the main channel, last week I went through and did a rundown of Night Prowler, Buzzsaw, and Sandstorm from the new Legacy line. And so anyway, if you haven't, I will go ahead and have a link up in the corner, or at the end of the video I'll make sure that those cards have a link to those if you want to go see those if you haven't already. I appreciate you being here now, even if you haven't seen those videos. So to kind of get along, one of the reasons that I made this video today is because my friend and I were actually talking recently about combiners. Here is Predacons. Now whenever him and I were talking about combiners, this one came to mind because it represents an area that in North American media we kind of shy away from a little bit. You think about Generation 1 Predacons, they were all animals, it made sense. Same thing with the Beast Wars guys, is, you know, once they came to Earth and they scanned a beast, that's the majority of what we saw them as, hence the name of the show. Now, when we look at Predacons here, one of the things that is questionably canonical, because again, these are Combiner Wars molds, like maybe Ramhorn and C-Clamp, you can kind of see them as maybe those are Cybertronian vehicles, because like I said, they shy away from showing us what a typical Predacon would be, because it seems like that all Predacons, they don't have animal modes inherent as an alt mode. There may be some of them, but it seems like they all start out with a vehicle mode. I thought, isn't that kind of a weird thing?
Cars and trucks, bad. Car robots, worse.
So anyway guys, that was just kind of my thought. Like I said, this isn't a review of these guys, so I'm not going to bother, transforming them and going over their details and stuff, but that was kind of my general thought. If you don't mind, go ahead down in the comments if you want to. Tell me, do you think it's weird for Predacons to, at least like we talked about, in North American media, for them to shy away from that? Because Japan showed off Predacons with vehicle modes, but for some reason, maybe it's like Hasbro doesn't want to dilute the idea, the core idea of what a Predacon could be. So we know that in the fiction of the Beast Wars timeline, the Predacons and Maximals are under a peacetime Cold War, as it were. The Predacons are planning to rise against the Maximals one day. And I thought, well, we never saw that happening because Megatron extracted their sparks, more than likely. What if there was a point where it happened before the alleged Beast Wars happened? What if they'd had a little bit of a brouhaha? So, as we can see here, is Team Magnaboss, which, yes, I don't have the Combiner Wars, Silverbolt, Ironhide, or Prowl, so this is my custom team of 5 here that doesn't have to be Combiners. We have the main man himself, the prime of the Beast timeline, which is Big Convoy. We have his first lieutenant, Lio Convoy, or as he's also known, Leo Prime. We have the Maximal Rev down there as the yellow and red dude. Then we have the pre-Beast Wars Tigatron and the reborn Ironhide. So, while I may not have the Combiner Wars Ironhide, we'll just imagine this is him from the Maximal era. So, moving on, we are seeing Team Magnaboss squaring off with none other than our boys that have formed Predacons. And that would be actually kind of cool to see in a cartoon. Predacons, though, he's savage with his might. And as we can see, our boys are stout and determined here. The first one to get taken down by Predacons is none other than our boy Rev, which, he's got gumption, but as we can see, he was no match. However, after Predacons puts him down on the ground, we can see that Tigatron runs to his defense, and I'm amazed that he's able to hold his own. But then again, maybe Predacons is just kind of jerking with him because, Predacons has got to be much stronger, so maybe he's just amused at Tigatron's valiant efforts. However, as we can see on the far right in the background, we have our old tough boy Ironhide coming in to take Predacons' attention because he's giving Tiger Strong enough time to get out of there with Rev. However, Loyal Convoy has to come in there, and he maybe put up even better of a fight against Predacons. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to the big man. Man, this is something that I would really love to see in a cartoon because, however, if he can bring Predacons down to his level, we can see he's using his concealed weapon to whack him upside the head. And yeah, I think I kind of enjoyed doing this photo show a little too much because the boys are all standing around the now defeated Predacons. I really like the shot of Big Convoy standing there without his big gun strapped to his back. But as always, we know our Maximal boys are going to come out on top. And anyway, guys, this is just some of the stuff that I'd love to share on my Instagram, which most of these photos were. We did a part 1, part 2, but here you got basically the abridged version. So speaking of, here is the link below in case you guys want to give it a look. So this is not only for the secondary channel, but it is also the Instagram from the main channel as well. Sometimes we'll post little previews of stuff that we're doing, or sometimes we'll post photos that, while I wanted to put them in a review, I just couldn't find a place for them. Today I went ahead and just gave you kind of the breakdown on the sort of story behind these pictures. But another thing that I wanted to go ahead and do is not only do you guys get a perk for watching this channel, but I'm actually, for the first time, actually going to showcase for you guys the new intro for the main channel. If you guys don't mind, for about the next 20 seconds or so, sit back and enjoy the new intro that you will see on the main channel. Alright, well that's one bullet point down, boys and girls, and I promise our second point here will be much briefer. Because, as you guys might have clocked in some of the other videos, our boy Hubcap has been making appearances in some of the photos on the main channel. And the thing is Hubcap, for those of you that don't know, he was my very first Transformer that I ever had. So you can see why I have an affinity, and maybe why the Generation Selects version just didn't quite scratch that itch that I just had in me for some reason. So whenever my friend got me the Studio Series Cliff Jumper, I had the Earthrise one, and I thought, you know what, why don't we just try this? And so I was able to actually swap the heads. As you probably saw in those photographs, the Maximal Rev is basically Hubcap's body with Cliff Jumper's head. So anyway, that allowed me to kind of go ahead and put Hubcap's head on him. Now, as you notice over here with the original, that Hubcap actually has a terracotta face with a red head to match the rest of his body. Well, it was that yellow head, and so I thought, you know what, let me just give it a shot and let me see if I can just paint it. And I like it. To me, it feels like Hubcap now, and I'm not the best at modifying either. But this was a simple enough head swap and just a little bit of paint, and as you can see, it's something that I'm very proud of. Anyway, I just wanted to share that with you guys, and with that, we'll move on to our last point of today's video. And now, reaching our last bullet point, guys, we are going to address a couple of cool things about Shockwave. Now, I'm not just talking about him being a tank, I'm talking about this guy being a quadruple changer. And technically it's kind of a cheat because there's just a little bit of slip and flip between how you permeate his alt mode and how you permeate his robot mode. So let's kind of see that, because right now, right here, we've got a typical Decepticon tank. You know, the turn can turn around. It's fabulous, right? So if he's going to be in his undercover Autobot mode, you basically just take this thing off here, and you flip it up, out comes the crane tip, and then tilt that tread, because they all had these weird kind of quad tread things for all the Autobots. And you put the crane tip back on there, boom, you've now got his undercover Autobot crane mode, because For some reason, the Autobots could not have energy blasters, which is lame. Anyway, let's move on to his robot mode. So when we look at Shockwave here, using his long arm prime undercover identity, I do kind of like how his head is very much like a very sassy taunt to the Autobots. Like, clearly he's got all of his Shockwave headpieces there just reoriented around. And it's kind of like, I dare you to call me out. I mean, come on, he has a Shockwave eyeball plain as day there on his forehead. However, he did appear in this color scheme in the animated series at the very end of it because he had already turned his colors to purple. And anyway, it was a brief scene, but most of the time we did see him in his gray color scheme whenever he was undercover.
You mean the spy we caught in boot camp, don't you, Bumblebee?
How do you know my name?
Surely you recognize your old pal, Long Arm.
But a quick slip and flip later, and we have Shockwave in a more traditional sense. One of the things I'm going to have to address is he does become taller whenever he takes his true Decepticon form. And one of the things is that this is genius engineering here. Here's the hand details from whenever he was in his long arm prime disguise, but that overall part just becomes a thumb later on whenever he's in Shockwave mode. Which, credit to the creators of the animated toys, is because not only did they have to figure out a transformation for these stylized looks that the robots were going to have, but making it work, that is just impressive on another level altogether. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed our little video that we did covering those three main things. And basically with that being said guys, I will see you next time. And as always guys,